What's going on, everybody? Hope you are having a wonderful week so far. Podcast time. Wait, before we start the podcast, please hit subscribe. We are at 150 episodes. Thank you to everybody that's listened. It's amazing. 150 episodes is mad to me. It's nearly, yeah. Sorry, I'm just thinking about it and not really. I'm just saying yes. Makes zero sense. But yeah, thank you so much to everybody that's listened. The podcast is moving in interesting situations at the moment. There may or may not be some ads that are slowly coming on. We've just signed the podcast to Virgin, and we're just kind of seeing what happens with that. I'm just being completely honest with you guys. There may be some ads on it already, so if you don't like them, then I'm sorry, but the podcast has to kind of at some point pay for itself. We've kind of started to grow a bit of a team out of the podcast now, and it's starting to it needs to pay for itself, if I'm totally honest with you guys. But yeah, it's amazing, and I'm really excited to see what this year comes of the podcast with signing it to Virgin, and let's just see. Doing it for a year. If it turns out shit, we'll stop doing it and do it back to ourselves. But the podcast is not changing at all. I'm still just doing it on a weekly, and hopefully there's just going to be more assets being made and more things for everyone to kind of get involved in. And I haven't spoke about it, but we may be doing like an ad-free version as well, on like a Patreon and stuff, maybe if we can, if we've got enough time. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. This episode is with QRTR. QRTR is an artist from Massachusetts. Spent a lot of time in New York, now lives in Philly. And we couldn't really work out when she played a show with me, but she's definitely played a show with me. She's a wicked DJ, and you'll hear me talk about her music, but her music's fucking amazing. So if you haven't heard of her, QRTR, pronounced quarter, go check her out. Go see her live. She's very good, and I really enjoyed this conversation. So without further ado, QRTR. What's cooking? I don't know if I should call you your actual name or your artist name. QRTR.
You can call me Meagan.
Meagan, cool. I like that. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm really good. I've got a confession to make. So I've known of your music for a while, but I haven't properly dove in deep into your music until the last half hour. And I didn't know you've done 2 albums, a remix album as well. And I'm like, why do I not know this? I know you played a show with me in summer. Was it last year? Or was it 2021?
I think it was before. I think it was either was it 2021?
Yeah, it wasn't before pandemic.
Then it must have been.
Yeah, because yeah.
It was a boat party we played.
Well, we must have played. It was before.
I think it might have been, yeah.
Was it the New York boat party?
Yeah.
Fuck me. That was 2020.
I know. Time is weird. Yeah. Was it?
No, that wasn't 2020. It couldn't have been.
It had to be 2019.
Yeah, it was.
That's crazy.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
That's wild. And we only met this year. Properly. Because I don't know if... Mm-hmm. Wait, did you... I'm so confused. I'm so confused right now.
No,
I thought you played with me at elsewhere.
No,
Rooftop.
I don't think I did. Wait.
You did. We booked you for elsewhere in Rooftop. I don't know. Fuck it. Anyway, good to see you.
Yeah.
But I was
good to see you too.
I was like, damn, she's released 2 albums and her and the the range of the music is amazing. And
you.
I was like, this is fucking dope. And I genuinely feel bad because I like haven't properly given like your music enough time in my life to be like, this is fucking dope, apart from the last half hour, because I didn't really know. I was like, oh shit, I should know all of this, but I didn't.
Yeah, I feel like right now in my current state, I am dance music's best kept secret, and we're trying to change that.
Well, let's fucking change it. Like, if you're listening to this podcast now go, just like stop listening to the podcast and just go. It's I think the thing that I see from the outside looking in, and also now listening to your music, is like, it's not about what I thought it was about. And it's not, and I like, that's really like, I'm just being brutally honest with myself. Is like,
yeah,
it's very easy in this day and age to like judge people. Well, it's always been easy to judge people, right? And kind of judge where people's careers are going, especially in the music industry. And like, I thought you were literally like brand new on the scene, like just like fresh, like coming out with some new stuff. And it's just completely wrong of me to presume that, because I'm totally wrong. You've actually done way more than most people. You've released 2 albums. I've not even released an album. Like, it's fucking amazing. So yeah, I apologize for that.
No, it's okay. To be fair, so I also did some research on you to like, so I felt like I learned a lot about you. I didn't realize you'd been DJing for so long.
Yeah, for like ever.
Since a child.
Yeah, like, and I'm an old man now, so.
I think that is something that is interesting as you like get into the industry and get to know other artists, is realizing just how long a lot of us have been doing it.
How long have you been doing it?
This project I started in 2015.
Oh, wow. So you've been putting the time in.
Yeah, and it started, I started producing and DJing around the same time for this project. I used to produce for fun.
Yeah.
Never, ever thought it would be a career.
Yeah.
Entirely a hobby and just a fun thing. But then I started this project in 2015, and I was promoting parties in New York, and I had a full-time job in film and TV. I went to film school.
Oh, cool.
So I would just use the money that I had to pay like local DJs that I really liked I just want to throw some fun parties, and I DJ and whatever. And then it became a thing. It was never supposed to be a thing. It was never supposed to be like a career. It was always just a fun.
How amazing is that though?
No, I know. It's incredible.
It's like, this life is something that not everyone dreams of, but like when you make music and when you DJ and you're kind of in the scene, it's like, if only I could do that as a full-time career, like if only.
Yeah.
And it's like always like fingertips away. Like it's always so close, because you're like going to the parties, you're throwing the parties, you're doing all of it, but like you're still not there. And then it happens.
No, exactly. I mean, to be fair, it didn't feel like a feasible career until this last year.
Really?
Yeah, and so it's funny that you're like, oh, it felt like you were fresh to the scene. In a way, I am.
Yeah.
Because I'm fresh to it being my full-time job.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So like, in that way, like, yeah, I feel kind of brand new, and I'm finally like meeting all these people that I used to like be dancing at their shows, parties, you know.
Yeah, it's really strange, because I guess you're right. It is like, you might have been producing and doing all of that for a long time, but until you have like your first release, or until you have something to like actually talk about, it's like people don't give a fuck at the end of the day until that is. Did you grow up in New York?
No, I grew up in Massachusetts, and then I moved to New York when I was 18 for film school. I went to NYU. So sick. Yeah, and then I was there for a while. I actually recently moved to Philadelphia.
Oh, are you in Philly now?
Yeah, this is my studio in Philly, and I I love it.
Yeah.
A lot.
It's a vibe.
Yeah, it's really sick over here. I actually went to I never thought I would live in Philly. It was never something on my mind.
Yeah.
I'd played a couple shows here, like small parties, but nothing, I don't know. But I went to a music festival this past September that Dave P threw. It was called Making Time.
Yeah.
And it was like Bicep, Fortet, Avalon Emerson, like a lot of people that I really admire. And so I went by myself. I drove from New York and went to the festival for 2 days and had the most amazing time.
Wow.
Just like solo, the most amazing time. And I hadn't done that, like a solo festival, since maybe 2016.
Yeah.
And so I recently went through a breakup.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I need to find a new spot. And New York is just, unless you're living with roommates, it's so expensive to the point that it's just like, I'm not even playing in New York anymore because I'm touring and
you're not there.
I'm not doing the local support stuff anymore, you know? So I was like, why am I here?
Yeah.
And then I started looking at Philly. I was like, let me just see what's going on there. And it's been so nice. It's
amazing to hear that, because it's very similar to me with Detroit, because I live in Detroit and in the UK, but in Detroit when I'm in America. And I was in New York before Detroit, and I didn't do long in New York. I only did like 4 or 5 months, just because I was on tour. But New York's my favorite place in the world, personally. Like, it's just a beautiful place. But it's just as a starting artist in a full-time career in music, New York is just not the place. It's stressful as fuck.
It's so stressful. It's crazy. I go to the grocery store here and I'm like, it doesn't need to be stressful to get eggs. That's crazy. Like little things, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, I'm so much more like calm here.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, Philly's weird. Like my first time going to Philly, I wasn't really a fan for like the first few times, and I think that was just because the parties sucked when I played.
Yeah.
Like it was a shitty venue. It was just shitty parties, and then like I got a really close friend in Philly, and kind of she like made me like Philadelphia a little bit more, and every time I go back, I'm like, yeah, this is actually, it's a vibe. It's like New York's like little sister or little brother. It's just kind of like, it's like got its own thing. It's got its own characters. Like, people from Philly are just fucking hilarious, genuinely.
100%.
Just
incredible
like characters.
people.
You can watch them. Yeah. You can just watch them all day and you're like, yeah, this is Philly. It's great.
No, totally. And honestly, I've been to the punk scene here is insane.
Yeah.
I went to a punk show, I think my first month being here, and had such an incredible time.
Really?
But even I feel like the dance music scene here, there's definitely stuff going on. And the times that I've gone out, I've always had a really good time. People are dancing. There's always like dance circles, which I love. You know, like,
it's a very American thing, that, which I love.
Is it?
Yeah, it doesn't happen. Maybe it's like in other cultures as well, but in British culture, it's not that at all.
Yeah.
Like, but I love that Americans do that.
It's so fun. I mean, I personally I understand going to a show and wanting to like see the artist that, even if it's a DJ, I understand like the desire to want to see them.
Yeah.
You might have some sort of connection to their work or whatever, but when it's dance music, there is something so special when people aren't concerned with that.
Yeah.
And they're just dancing and like looking at each other, and like that's the best. I think
it's like, for me, the dance music culture is about escapism from like reality. And I think I kind of harp on about this all the fucking time, but like social media changed that, where the music that you go and party to on weekends is so accessible. Same with like streaming.
Yeah.
Like, it's so accessible. Before, like, you'd have to, like, even I'm talking before streaming, but like after vinyl, right? Like you'd have to go on Beatport and find it. And not everybody knew, or like Track Source or Track It Down, but like not everybody knew that. Like the general public didn't know that. So like go into a club, they're hearing music they've never heard before on a regular occasion, and then they're trying to like, it takes them months to find a record.
Yeah.
And like even before that, it was like all on vinyl, and you're just like, people never find a record unless you hear it on a radio. There wasn't Shazam. There wasn't any of these things. So it kind of made the scene much smaller. Like it was much more intimate and much more community focused. But it was very like, the DJ is not really the performer.
Right.
He's just part of, it's kind of like in hip hop, same as like hip hop culture, right? It was like the dancing, the graffiti, the music, the MCs. Like it was a culture.
Yeah.
Whereas I think now it's kind of moved to it's still a part of a culture, but it's just different. It's very different.
Oh, totally. And I mean, especially in America, just EDM and what that is. And it's like, you know, these kind of electronic music, superstar type people.
Yeah.
It's just different.
It's different. And now it's tech house.
Yeah.
And
no, tech house is now mainstream
EDM
in a lot of ways.
And the really interesting thing is the techno scene at the moment. Because that's, for me, like that's almost on the same route as what tech house is. It's just going way quicker.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it's going harder. It's like play as hard as you possibly fucking can. Just cause.
Yeah.
And I might sound like an old man, but it's like I go to these, I've been to a few parties, I'm not going to mention them, but like really hard, like where there's been artists that I really look up to, and then they start playing like 145 BPM, and I'm like, dude, like chill. Like I want to listen.
Let's calm down.
Yeah, like we don't need this. Like, and the crowd, like, although like the hard techno thing is like fashionable now, but it's like most of these people don't listen to hard techno every day. They're like listening to like country music. Like fucking chill.
Yeah, go as hard and as fast as you possibly can. It's like the name of the game. I mean, if I'm, I guess, in the mindset, that can be very fun.
Yeah.
It can be very fun.
Not for 10 hours,
I don't know. Though. Yeah, it's a lot. I do like a progression in the night. I mean, Same. When I used to throw parties, I feel like a big part of what I was trying to do with the parties was have DJs that played different things.
Yeah, I think that's super important.
I think it's fun.
Curating a lineup is, and curating the progression of a night is really hard. And I think, do you think it's still do you think promoters class it as an importancy as much now?
I think some still do.
Yeah.
I mean, at least speaking with like my experience in New York, I do think there are a lot of people who put on shows and parties that do care about that still, but those aren't the ones that are making you a bunch of money necessarily. Because, you know, I think, and I see it a lot in Philly too. I see it more in Philly than in New York, at least so far. The way promoters will like, rather than booking talent and promoting the talent, they book a genre.
Wow.
And
really?
they're like disco all night. And it's not about the DJs, it's not about the promoter, it's not the venue, it's like this disco genre that people want, or like, you know, 90s hip hop all night. Like stuff like that, you know?
I kind of like that to a certain extent.
I mean, I think your average person who isn't like in an underground scene, who just wants to go out to dance, will prefer seeing a flyer that tells you straight away what they're getting into.
Totally. Yeah.
Rather than seeing a bunch of DJs and then looking up their mixes, which I used to do. And like, I like doing that.
Yeah.
But that takes time.
It also takes a level of dedication to what you want to do, right? And I think the general public this is massively generalizing and kind of sound awful for saying it, but it's like a lot of the music the general public listen to that are completely out of our scene, they're just listening to music they're fed rather than actually diving into the music culture itself.
Totally. I mean, streaming has made the act of listening to music a passive activity.
Yeah, before it was radio, right?
Yeah.
And now it's so streaming.
Like I think it's nice to not have to think about things or search for things when you especially if you're so busy, if you have a 9-to-5 and you're commuting, it's like I just want to put my AirPods in or whatever and hear something that I like and not have to think about finding it.
Do you listen to Spotify or Apple Music?
I listen to Spotify.
Okay. How do you find the algorithm? Because I don't listen to Spotify like the algorithm. Like, I'm not one that just presses play. I go and like find an artist, which is really, I actually probably should let the algorithm do its thing because like it's way more intelligent than me. But like I go and find an artist and just like play an album or play their like top 5 or something like that. Like, how do you use it?
I do both.
Yeah.
So Spotify doesn't pay us well, so I hate that I'm such a stan, but
they pay us shit.
Yeah, I mean, like I've been using Spotify since probably 2012, 2013. And before I was DJing, before this project was even an idea in my mind. And I was really into making playlists. I've always been into making playlists. I'd make like mix CDs when I was in middle school and high school. Like that's always been something I really enjoyed.
Did you used to give it to people? You're like,
yeah,
I love that.
Oh yeah, I would make mix CDs, and I actually had a printer that would let me do labels on discs. So I'd design the label. I'd like make copies. I'd give it out to people. I also used to I'd produce stuff in middle school, and I'd like sing on it, and I'd cool. Make little like albums and things and give them to my friends on the bus.
That's amazing. Do you still have any?
Forcing my friends. It's sad. I only have. I have a couple CDs of like those mixtapes I'd make.
That's amazing.
But I lost most of what I produce. I have a couple songs that no one will ever listen to.
Yeah.
Because I won't let that happen.
Why not?
Because they're
awful.
It's so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. I'm singing and I'm like 11 talking about like heartbreak as if I even.
That's so cute.
It's so embarrassing.
Yeah, but at 11, heartbreak was the worst thing.
I mean, I guess so.
Like, I remember, like, when I was that age and, like, a girlfriend splitting up with me, and I literally thought my life has ended. Like, I remember crying.
It does feel that way, yeah.
Because it's the worst thing that's happened. Like, obviously, no, it's not. Some people have life a lot harder, right? Like, I've got,
they do.
But in my life, that was the worst thing that had happened to me. That, like, like my girlfriend split up with me. Fuck, what am I going to do with life?
I have, there's one song called Single Tonight.
I love this already.
And it's literally about like, it's like, I don't need anyone tonight. Like, I'm good on my own. I was 11 years old. Like, I wasn't even allowed to be hanging out with people at night. Like, what was I talking about?
Of course I was single at night.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are you saying? I remember once when I was a kid, I had my mom get me this, like, little Sony Tascam, like, tape recorder thing.
Yeah.
And I would sing into it and, like, whatever. And one day I was in the living room singing a little song of mine, and my mom overheard me, and I was like, what did I say? It was terrible. I didn't have a bad childhood. I just wanted to preface this. I didn't. Really, totally fine childhood.
Yeah.
But I was singing over and over, hate my life, wish I could take my life, take my life, over and over. No, I know. Insane. I was like maybe like 7.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it kind of rhymes, you know?
Yeah.
And my mom comes in and she's like, what is going on? She's like, is everything okay? I'm like, I'm just singing a song, Mom. And she's like, but you really feel that way? And I was like, no, I think it sounds good.
That's so
Stop
good.
bugging me, you know?
It's so good. When you look back at it and going, what the fuck was I thinking? Like,
no, really though.
Yeah. But it's weird because it's like, where did you learn that from?
I mean, probably movie and TV.
Right. And it's like,
yeah,
it's amazing what like we consume can influence us.
Yeah.
When we don't really know what we're actually saying.
No, at all. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't feel that way.
No.
I mean, I'm trying to think like what must have been on the radio at the time, like Nirvana.
Well, it makes sense,
like,
doesn't it?
I don't know.
It makes sense.
And then it clicks, and it's like, oh, I was trying to replicate, you know, what was on the radio at the time.
Yeah, and if it's Nirvana, it's like this dude that's very highly in addiction, having the worst time of his life that he's
and I'm
singing
just a little
about.
child.
Yeah, and you can't process it as a child, right? So you're just yeah, your mum must have been like so fucking shitting herself. She's like, what is life?
Yeah.
Also, things back then was less accessible, right?
Yeah. So like, well, I used to record music off the radio onto those tapes so that I could access it in an easy way.
Yeah, that's mad, isn't it? How quick technology has changed. I think like people are older, younger now, if that makes sense. I think people's childhoods actually kind of get slightly taken away from them to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think so. We know too much. We have access to too much now.
Yeah.
And there's only so much. I feel like there's only so much parental controls can really do. If you're a kid that has friends, like you have access to everything. It doesn't matter. And
let's be honest, the kids are always way better at like technology than the parents. Like 100%. Hands down. Like even I see it with like I've got 5 nieces and nephews. So like the eldest is 11 and like he comes out with things I'm like, I do not even know that. Like how do you even know that? And he's like, YouTube. And I'm like, yeah, it's wild. And I'm like, it's
crazy. It's a little scary.
It's amazing to a certain extent. I love it, but I also think like I'm also like, can you like where does it switch to like their childhood actually being not a childhood, but maybe it's just a different childhood to what we have.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like I think about this a lot. Something that I actually fixate on a lot is tech and what it's doing to all of our brains.
Okay.
But
I like this. I like where this is going.
Yeah.
Conspiracy theories.
I do think, no, I mean, and some of it's not conspiracy.
I know.
Like,
that's the thing, yeah.
I do think about that. Like, how is all of this affecting the youth right now? And the thing is like, if this is their experience, they won't know that it's any different than like this is normal for them. Yeah. They grew up in this.
Totally.
So they don't feel like they're missing out on a different kind of childhood because there is no way to know what that would have felt like.
100%.
You know, like this is just their normal.
Yeah. And I don't.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I guess also the thing is, I don't know if you can remember it when you were a kid and like your parents would be like, back in my day, like we used to do this and we used to do that. And like, I remember like my dad would tell me he'd like, him and his brother would like go up on the hills for like all day and like camp over at night and like just be like completely like wild really in the area. And like my parents would never have let me have done that.
No.
Because they're more aware of like crazy people that are out there, if you know what I mean. And there's like with technology, you're more aware. And there's no way, like I wasn't even allowed out like after night. Like after dark, it was like, you're fucking coming home. So it's like, it's just, I guess it's how technology has just made everyone more aware of where we're at and what's going on around us, which actually just makes everyone a little bit more scared.
Oh, totally. And like, it's one of those things where I think it's a good and bad thing. I recently got, I got like a little Ring doorbell camera thing. I really only got it to make sure that like my cat sitter is coming when I'm gone. Because I had like a weird experience once, and I just want to make sure like,
what was the weird experience?
Getting fed. Okay, so my cat has like heart problems.
Okay,
and she needs medication twice a day, which is a whole thing. Yeah. And obviously, when you're touring and stuff, it's like you want to make sure that you have somebody who can like do that.
Yeah.
And I had this one woman who was cat sitting for a few days, and like she's like, yeah, the cat's just not taking her medication. I'm like, okay, well, you have to give it to her.
Yeah.
like the cat isn't gonna tell you yes or no. Like you just kind of have to make it happen.
Yeah.
And she was like, it's in her food bowl. Let's see if she eats it. I know my cat really well. The cat's not gonna eat it. No. She's not gonna eat it.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, she ate it. And I'm like, God, you're lying to me. And then I was like, what else is she lying about? Is she even coming to the apartment?
Yeah.
Like now I'm like, I don't trust this woman. So I was like, I'm gonna get a little like camera thing, and then it'll just tell me like, oh, someone's at your door, and I'll be like, oh, that's my cat sitter.
Yeah.
You know, cool. Just like whatever. So the reason why I brought that up is because the Ring, the company, like they also do these like alerts to your phone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'm getting these alerts from like everyone around me in Philly, like my package got stolen, watch out for this person, and blah. And I was just like, and I turned it all off. I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. I don't want to know. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to know. That's so weird. And I was like, the only alerts I want are like lost pets.
I just care about the animals.
Literally, that's it.
Yeah.
If I see a cat, maybe I'll recognize it and I can help somebody out. I don't give a shit if your package got stolen. Just go to the store if it keeps happening.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I feel you.
But
I feel you on that.
It's just a lot. It's too much. I don't want to know everything going on all the time.
Have you heard of that app Citizen?
Yeah, and it's scary.
It's fucking scary.
I don't want to know.
So I downloaded it. It originally came out in New York. It was originally a New York thing. And I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to get it whenever I go everywhere. And then it wasn't everywhere. And then last year, I think I downloaded it for Detroit, which was literally the most, like, I don't live in I don't live in a terrible neighborhood, but I live very close to bad neighborhoods. And my neighborhood isn't that nice, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, I was just mind blown with what was going on. You hear regular gunshots where I live, and then you see it, what's going on, and you're like, woman stabbed a man 300 yards away, and you're like, what? Like where? Like what house?
No, I know. It's too much. I did have Citizen for some time in New York because sometimes it would be actually really funny. And that sounds terrible, but like every now and then it would be like raccoon like attacks woman on stoop. Or like, you know, or like some wild animal has like gotten into the city, and that stuff killed me. I thought it was hysterical.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I would like specifically go on Citizen to try to find the funny ones, and that was, but you have to dig through some really scary shit.
Some really dark.
I don't know if it's worth
it. It's definitely not.
Yeah.
It's wild that there's an app that, I guess it's supposed to be a safety thing, right? It's like, don't go to this area. But it's like,
sure.
But it's also like, what world do we, like, I know there's other countries that you have to be extremely careful, and like we're very fortunate in living where we live. But like, living your life like being worried to like where you go is fucking like, it's not what I want in my life.
No,
and I know
same.
some people have to do that. I understand that, but like it puts a dampener on everything, right? When you got to think about safety first.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately that a lot of, at least in a place like America, a lot of the people that I assume are frequenting these apps and are really like fixated on it are people that don't even need to be worried.
100%. Yeah.
That's like a whole other conversation, I guess. But like, and then yeah, I don't know. Something about it's like kind of weird.
Yeah, no, I agree, because I think a lot of neighborhoods in America that you do have to worry about, it's everyday nature for them. So it's not, they don't worry about it.
Exactly.
And it's like, yeah, the wealthier part of America that's just looking at everyone else's squalor and thinking that they might get shot or they might get stabbed. Well,
right. And then commenting and being like, yeah, the city's not the same.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
it's so weird, isn't it, how life is now? Like, I don't know if you've noticed it from traveling a lot more with touring and things like that, but it was a massive eye opener for me how, and this is massively generalizing, but how ungrateful people are for like living where they live, and they will complain about everything. Like, I'll go back to England and everyone will fucking complain. I'm like, guys, you live in the easiest country in the world. Like, if you lose your job, the government will give you money. If you're unwell, if you're going to die, they will save you and they will never charge you. You can go to the doctor for absolute free. You can get your teeth done for like 20 quid. Like, groceries are cheap. Yeah, you might have to pay a bit of money on your fucking electricity bill and your petrol bill, but like everything else is easy.
Yeah.
Like, how can you complain?
No, I know. It is. I mean, I think traveling for tour has opened my eyes in a lot of ways, because it's not that I hadn't traveled before. I used to go to Portugal a lot when I was a kid in the summers, because my mom's from Portugal.
Oh, cool. Can you speak Portuguese?
Yeah.
Sick. That's amazing.
I can speak Portuguese and Spanish. My dad's Puerto Rican, my mom's Portuguese.
Oh, no way. That is handy as hell.
It is.
That's so good.
But yeah, I used to travel a lot as a kid, and then even before music, when I was doing film and TV, there was a few years where I would travel to do media management for like video shoots.
Yeah.
So, I would be going mostly around America to really pretty places. It was usually for like fashion things.
Yeah.
So I'd go to like really gorgeous spots. I remember I went to like Big Sur for a shoot, and I was like, oh, this is beautiful. So I did travel a lot for work, but it was in touring where I started to just go to like kind of main cities or wherever like there were kind of dance music hubs in a city or state, and realizing the big thing that I noticed actually in touring was the homelessness problem that is pervasive across the entire US.
Wild.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
I lived in New York for years and years. I have seen homelessness. I've had family members that have been homeless, and we've like helped them get into shelters in New York. And like, I know it's a thing in New York. I didn't realize it's a thing everywhere.
Yep.
Everywhere. Had no idea.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's wild. That's also the other thing for me in England is like, there are homeless people, 100%. There's homeless people pretty much everywhere you go, unless like even Japan there is no homeless people. Have you been to Japan
Really?
yet?
I've never been to Japan.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable. But yeah, like I didn't see a single homeless person. I don't know what they, I don't know.
Yeah, what is going on in Japan?
I don't know what they do, but it's just, maybe they, I don't know. It's like kind of a perfect culture, which is, they're like, it's amazing. But yeah, I have never, I've been there twice, spent like a total of like 2 weeks there, and I didn't see one single homeless person there.
Fascinating.
But like in the UK, like homelessness, yes, it happens, but nothing compared to what it is here in America. And also the UK government offers so much support for homeless.
Yeah.
That like you can get like here, it kills me so much when you see like a family homeless in America, where you see like kids on the streets with
it happens all the time
with the mum or with the dad. Like in the UK, like they'd be given a house straight away.
Damn.
Yeah, it just like, don't get me wrong, I'm obviously also generalizing, but like, and I'm sure it doesn't happen in certain situations, but like, even if you're an immigrant coming to England, or you're coming from, like, let's say for instance, like what's happening in Ukraine at the moment.
Yeah.
Like one of my friends, he's a property developer, and the government are literally housing like everybody from Ukraine. So like councils will then go to like my friend and go, okay, I've got 10 families. I need 10 houses. Like, what can you do? And then the government will just straight pay for it, which I know other governments do that. If you're like a single mum, like they will pay your house for you. Like that's, it's so lucky in the UK. And then like people still complain. But yeah, the homelessness is wild here.
So should I move to the UK?
Well, it's actually very simple. Like I was gonna say, you probably won't like the weather, but like it's actually probably like more mild than what you're used to in Philly and New York.
Yeah, I mean, I've only lived in the Northeast.
Yeah,
so
you're used to it.
Yeah. Okay, so then I'll good. Just note that.
Yeah, you'll be chilling. It'll be like moving to Seattle with less homeless people.
Right. Apparently, damn. I actually
go on.
I am curious about what a move to Europe would be like for me, though, just in general. I've thought about it a lot.
Well, listening to your music in the last half hour, that culturally, it doesn't. This might sound offensive, and this is not for me being offensive, but it doesn't sound like you're from America by listening to your music.
I get that a lot.
And that's a compliment more than a not, if that makes. And I'm not saying that it's bad to be from America, but like, and there's insane producers out here. I'm just not.
Of course,
I've not got my head on the ground all the time, if you know what I mean. But like, when I listen to your records, it reminds me of a European, of a very British culture in music, really. Like I was listening, I can't remember which record, but it was one of your records, and it just turned into this crazy jungle record. It was like super ambient, and then it turned into jungle, and I was like, this is fucking amazing. I was like, I needed this in my life right now.
Yeah, no, I've definitely, it's funny, I've never been to the UK.
Really?
Yeah.
But it makes sense growing up in New York, because New York is not America in cultures.
It doesn't feel like that. Yeah. No. Yeah. It's definitely, it feels different from, I would say, most cities in America, for sure.
Where did all that come from then? Like the kind of, I don't want to talk about influences because it's cliche as fuck, but like, how did you get to that in your sound? Like, where did that come from? Like, what was around you that was making that happen?
Yeah. I mean, it could have something to do with going to Portugal a lot.
Yeah.
When I was younger, my dad was really into freestyle.
Oh, cool.
So like I grew up listening to a lot of freestyle, but I really don't know. I've always liked dance music. I never knew, like, I didn't start to understand the sort of subgenres within dance music until I started this project.
Yeah.
Which also I think is why my sound is the way it is, because I was never like fixated on genre ever.
Yeah. Which is really interesting to have, because so many people are completely the opposite.
Yeah.
Where and I think especially now it's like, why am I want to become I want to become the most famous DJ in the world. How do I do that? Or, okay, I like this artist, I'm going to make music like them.
Right.
Rather than go, I like everything, I'm just going to make a bunch of music and see what comes out of it.
Totally. I mean, I don't think, obviously there's no like right or wrong way to approach it.
Not at all.
Sometimes people will DM me and they'll be like, whatever, I want to start getting into producing. Do you have any advice? And what I always say is to make a playlist of your absolute favorite songs. Mm-hmm. Don't think about genre. Don't think about when it was made. Don't think about if it was a producer or a band. Just your favorite songs. And then listen through that playlist and try to find similarities, like sonic similarities within those songs. Is it like a synth that's arpeggiating? Is it vocal chops? Is there something happening in all of those songs, or a lot of those songs, that are similar despite genre or anything? And then see if maybe you can take all of those different things that you find and try to put them into whatever you're making.
That's really an interesting perspective, because I've never done that as a exercise, but I've in like my favorite songs, like all genres. I've done like my favorite songs in like electronic, like world, but like I've not done all time favorite songs.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd be surprised to hear similarities across very different genres, you know, even if it's like the way vocals are processed.
100%. Yeah.
You know, or like the tone or like kind of color of a certain element in a song that is kind of pervasive in that whole playlist, or, you know, stuff like that, that when you're first producing, you're not going to be able to necessarily like replicate right away. But it helps a lot to start thinking about those things to create, like, you know, a sound that is quote unquote yours.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think I'm thinking about it myself in my head. Is like, it makes complete sense why I make the music I make. Really, it does. What is the music that you listen to for you outside of electronic? Like you mentioned punk. Like I wouldn't expect you as like looking at you and like going, "Oh, she loves punk." Like I wouldn't expect that.
Well, to be fair, I wouldn't say like, "Oh, I love punk." I would feel like a poser if I said that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm acquainted enough with what's actually going on in the punk scene.
Totally.
One of my best friends is in a punk band in New York. I love going to her gigs.
Yeah.
They're so fucking fun.
Yeah.
I love the energy of a punk show, because to me, it's kind of what I would hope in a really good club setting too.
Yeah.
You know, where it's just like really high energy. People are just having a blast and not caring about
anything.
You know, anything. Yeah. I think it's easier with punk music, because that culture, like the culture of like being a punk is about not caring.
Yeah, it's like a massive middle finger to the world.
Yeah, and I think to me, like, dance music has very much the capability of being that.
Oh. I lose you? Sorry, internet is not my friend today. You were talking about the energy of a punk scene, of a punk night, and kind of how you wish it could be replicated in a club.
I mean, I think in certain instances, like depending on the night, that energy does get replicated in clubs.
Yeah.
I've played gigs where it felt like a punk show.
Yeah.
I played, it was in New York, and it was A2B2, Night of Fire, and Arca was playing, and Kira Kira Bonito. And I remember it, like the energy when I was playing, it felt like a punk show, and it was sick. I would love every gig to feel that way.
Yeah.
Just like chaotic, but in a great way.
Yeah.
And the thing is like with my DJ sets, I try to take the energy of my productions and the sort of eclectic nature of my productions and then just like ramp it up for a DJ set. So I feel like I have the flexibility to create that kind of energy if I wanted to.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of if the crowd is receptive to it or not, you know?
I totally agree. It's one thing for me that I've always said that I wanted to do is I wish I could like properly sing, and I wish I could like properly play an instrument, like, because I'd love to just be able to go on stage and play the piano and sing, because I think you control the crowd in a way easier way. You say jump and they say how high. And I think there's a level of in a DJ set is my views on it, and it'd be interesting to see yours, but like I'm serving the crowd rather than the crowd coming to see me play. Obviously that people do come and see both of us play, but it's more so I have to entertain them without telling them to do things. And I think that's the difference between like a live show, like even like a punk show, is like you have the energy from that artist, like from the get-go. And it's like a conversation between, although it is you and the crowd, it's still everything's very personal in like when you're seeing somebody live and they have a mic and they can sing. It's like, although they're talking to the whole crowd, like it sounds cliche as fuck, but like you as the crowd is what is one. They're like, you're all one. You all jump together. No one jumps out of time in like a big show, like a concert. Like everyone's jumping at the same time. Everyone's clapping at the same time. Everyone's just like, it's so in sync.
Yeah.
Whereas I think a club show is like so many like little things are going on in a club show, right?
Totally.
And a lot of the people there aren't always necessarily there to listen to the music. Like, how many of your mates have you dragged along to a show that they don't have a fucking clue who's playing? And they're just going because they're friends of you and they want to please you and make you have a good night. So like, oh, go on then. Megan's taking us to another fucking shit show again. It's like, it's always the way. And like, I feel like live concerts is like people have bought a ticket to go and see that person. Whereas I think in club shows it's just slightly different. But when it works in a club show, it's the best.
Oh, absolutely. I think I agree with you in that DJing feels different from a live show because it feels more like entertainment.
Yeah.
But my approach is to kind of like play with that dynamic a little bit. And this is something I've been doing even before I was putting out music, and I would do it at my parties, is like I would try to play deep cuts and like weird shit that could potentially clear the floor depending on the crowd.
Yeah.
But right before that could happen, I'm going to give you like some nostalgia really quick.
Yeah.
And I'll, you know, or I'll make like an edit of some like track I loved as a kid.
Yeah.
That meshes well with the weird shit. And now I have the heads and the like people who were dragged by the heads all having a good time.
Yeah.
And I feel like that, like that's DJing. That's the art of DJing, is being able to do that, obviously. I think I try to like test the boundaries a lot with my sets.
That's cool. I like that.
And like sometimes it doesn't go great, but when it does go well, it's incredible.
Yeah, it goes.
And it's so worth it. And like it is like a delicate balance, because you do want to keep getting booked and you want people to have a good time.
Well, and you also want to, on a business side of things, you also want to gain more fans from that show.
No, exactly. Right? You don't want to like scare people off, but at the same time, like for me, because this started as just like an art project, just fun, I'd like to keep it that way. And so like I also want to give people an experience. I want people to be like, oh, I didn't know she was going to do that.
Yeah.
You know,
which is and I think that goes to show in your music as well, from what I've heard of it, is like it's actually like a breath of fresh air, if I'm honest, because I haven't experienced an album like that for a long time. And like we both come from the same kind of growing up in the same era, but it's like albums were a thing, if you know what I mean. And an album allows you to be the artist you actually always wanted to be. And back then in the 90s, when you'd have an electronic album, it's like, it's an electronic album. Like these people might be DJs, these people might be like doing live electronic shows, but they can also write a ballad. They can also write like a fucking jungle record. They can also write a like epic trance record, and it's okay. They're just being who they want to be. And it doesn't happen so often now, and it's really interesting. I guess, like, why did you start doing albums?
Honestly, first
I want you to
album.
Lie about it. Just straight up lie about it. Don't tell me the
No. I had no intention of writing an album.
Okay.
And then a label, Dome of Doom, which I released both my albums on, emailed me.
Yeah.
And they were like, do you want to write one?
Yeah.
We'll put it out for you. And I was like, okay, when do you need it by? And they're like, whenever you're done. And I was like, okay.
That's
and then
so
I did
cool.
it in a year.
So cool. And that was it. And I've not heard of this label. Who are they?
Dome of Doom. They're in LA.
Okay.
Just an indie label. They do like their roster's pretty eclectic. They do a lot of like bass, even like hip hop.
Cool.
I feel like they're sort of known for albums that get put on cassette tapes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun working with Dome of Doom because they are very hands off in a way that I like.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, let us know when you're done.
Yeah.
Like, sounds good. Anything you want, just let us know. We'll try to make it happen. I think for it being my first couple albums, I needed that so that I could deliver something that felt uniquely mine. And I wasn't trying really hard to be part of a specific sound or label or roster. I think it was definitely a slower burn to work with smaller label like that for 2 albums, but it has felt really organic, and everything up until now has felt earned, and I felt prepared for it because of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you think in any way it held you back?
I don't think so. not for what my goals are.
What are your
because
goals?
I want to be the producer's producer. I want to be like a quartet. I want to like do something different that people can't quite classify.
Yeah.
And somehow make it sustain an entire career. And I also want to I sort of want to be like an OPN. I want to do scores, like weird electronic scores, and yeah,
and it all makes sense because you are doing it at the end of the day, like you are. And I think it's like, it's super nice to talk to somebody that knows exactly what they want, and obviously that can change over the years.
Oh, totally. I mean?
Like, I'm sure it's changed from when you first released the first album to what it is now, and like your goals always change. But like, it's really nice to it. And I get this from your socials. I get it from just the vibe. Is like, it's not about like trying to make bangers and worrying about streams and worrying about everything that's involved with the business side of it. Although I'm sure you do to a certain extent. Like, there's definitely levels of that
you have to
get away from. But it doesn't happen. I don't come across it as often. And I think it's just really important to be able to do that, because it sounds cliche as fuck, but it's like, it is about just making fucking great music.
It is. And like, you can't ignore the business side. It's 100% part of it. I still look at streams. Of course I care about numbers, because that's how I will keep getting booked.
It's how we get judged. It's how we
get judged. Totally. But yes, like, I am gonna post about my Spotify Wrapped numbers and make sure it's with a photo of me on the toilet so people know how I feel.
Yeah, I saw that earlier.
So like, it's clear that I don't think it's everything, and I wish it wasn't so important. But like, it is. And I feel like over the years, I've gotten much better at trying to be business minded while still trying my best not to dilute what I'm doing with the creative side. But that's also why I have, like a manager and agents.
Yeah, so they can do that.
They can deal with that.
It's so interesting because like, you and I are like I think we both can relate on the music side of things, but I feel like you're very like relaxed about. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm just massive. This is what I'm kind of getting a vibe, but you're like very relaxed on the business side of things, where I stress so much about it.
Oh, I stress 100%.
Okay,
I stress.
Cool, good.
I'm trying to play cool right now.
Yeah, don't play cool.
So no, cool. 100% stress. You know, I have to remind myself, like, the thing that I'm actually really fortunate to have is that I do have a safety net.
Yeah.
I had a career before this.
Yeah.
Like, and there are a lot of musicians that I know that are full-time musicians that I've spoken to that like, that is the big fear. And I feel like a lot of decisions get made out of desperation.
Yep. 100%.
And a lot of creative decisions get made out of desperation to make sure that they can sustain that music career.
Yeah.
I feel fortunate enough that I know, like, if I stop making money with music, I'm just going to go back to doing my film and TV stuff.
Yeah.
And I can still keep doing what I love and not worry about the business side. Do I want to do that? No, because it was fucking boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So of course I worry about the business side too. And I get really stressed out. And then I have to like remind myself, like, okay, I've worked really hard in my life.
Yeah.
To be able to have options for myself. But it's all about being strategic. I mean, why did I move to Philly? So that I could pay less rent, so that I could keep doing music full time.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah.
You just have to like think of stuff like that.
I think it's also about removing the ego from it, which like
so hard.
It's so hard, right? It's really hard to kind of take that out of it, because I have nothing else outside of music, really. Like I worked for my parents, and I was a lifeguard at some point in my career, and I worked in a fish and chip shop. Like I have nothing else. I didn't go to school. I didn't do anything. So it's like, for me, it's like, do I either want to go work for my parents again, and they own a drug and alcohol rehab? So do I want to literally do completely the opposite to what I do now? Is like literally the opposite.
It's literally the opposite.
So it's like, yeah, and the ego is like, it can get you.
Oh, totally. Even me moving to Philly, I had to grapple with ego. Like, what am I going to do? I'm a New York based artist.
Yeah.
People are going to ask me if I'm still based out of Brooklyn. I'm going to have to say no.
I think it sounds cooler being based out from Philly, though.
I think so, too.
I think it's way cooler now.
I 100% agree.
Because it doesn't happen.
I won't lie.
Yeah.
But the thing is, too...
Josh Wink from Philly?
Is he?
I don't know. Maybe, did I just make that up? Sorry, carry on.
I know... I was going to say, there are a lot of musicians here. I know Tierra Whack lives here. Really? There's another musician, Body Meat, lives here. Like, there's some really cool stuff here.
Yeah, Josh Wink's from Philly.
Okay, yeah. I mean, the mastering engineer that I've been working with since I released my first EP lives in Philly.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you ever go
Ryan
in?
Schwab. No, and now I can.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm so stoked about that. And, but the thing is, like, last couple gigs I played, people be like, oh, you're still in Brooklyn? I'm like, no, I just moved to Philly. They're like, why?
Yeah. It's the judge
like,
from everybody else, right?
Yeah. But it's ego. You have to just get rid of that shit.
How do you get rid of it?
It's a lot of, like, telling myself, you don't care.
Yeah.
You don't care.
Yeah.
Until I believe it.
Like, almost like fake it till you make it. Although I don't like that.
You have to sometimes, but you have to. With ego stuff, for me, I have to. I'm constantly thinking about how I'm being perceived.
Yeah.
Constantly.
How is that as a girl as well?
Oh, well, there's a whole other level of it. Because you're not only thinking about, like, whether you're cool or relevant enough, you're also thinking about, are you respected enough?
Yeah.
Do people believe you're making your shit?
Oh, yeah, that's the rough one. That is a rough one.
It is what it is, though. Like, and so I think about it all the time. I'll to the point where it's like, I'll make conscious decisions about social media posts.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to give people the wrong idea. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, a concrete example. Like,
it really frustrates me that like, we are in a scene where 85% of the most successful people, whether it's male or female, don't write their own music.
Yeah. And people don't realize that.
No. And
so, yeah.
I'm trying to normalize it. That, like, it's okay if you don't write your own music, if that's what you decide. Like, if you want to become part of the music industry and you're creative and you have all these amazing ideas, just because you don't push the buttons, it's absolutely fine if you don't make it. Some of the biggest artists in the world that everybody listening to this has probably gone and seen do not make their own music, or they don't engineer their own music. They're not sat in front of the computer making it themselves. Neither does Beyonce.
And that's the thing. Like, there are people that get to a certain point, they literally don't even have the time to do it if they wanted to, because they're touring so much.
Which is a really weird concept for me. And I want to get your vibe on this. When you become like the biggest artist in the world, all right, you're still going to write your music.
Yeah, because that's the whole fucking point.
Exactly.
That is the best part of this entire thing.
Yeah, that's why you did it, for you.
Yeah.
So and this is the thing, is like, there's certain people that don't need to write their own music. Like, let's say Tiesto. Like, I know Tiesto doesn't technically write his own music. Like, I know he's in the studio a lot, and I know he has a writing partner, and et cetera, et cetera. Like, this is not me shitting on Tiesto. I think he's a god, realistically, of what he's achieved in this industry. But like, I don't know where I was going with this. Yeah, he's touring so much that he doesn't, like, how can you be in the studio if you're touring 4 days a week and also have a family and have a life outside of that as well, and kind of be reasonably normal, if you know what I mean? You physically can't.
No, you can't.
And then you need to go write a single that has to perform. Like, it's just not, it's impossible. And it's impossible to me that people are naive enough to think that these people are doing all of it themselves. Like,
exactly.
Go on.
The fact that, so that is the issue, is that your average person thinks someone like Tiesto must write their own music.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why would they be Tiesto?
Yeah.
And then they create this idea in their head that is like the standard. And then for some reason think that, you know, these up and coming, it's specifically with women too, like these up and coming women.
It is with women. Yeah.
Must have ghostwriters. And like, sure, there might be some that do. Because at the end of the day, there's two parts to this job. There's if you're a producer, there's the writing part and the performing part.
Yeah.
The producing part and the performing part. And those are actually different jobs.
Yeah, yeah.
And some people might be better at one thing or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And you're really lucky if you're really good at both.
Yeah.
So like, and the thing is like, the way that dance music culture in America, at least, is where it's such a spectacle, some people will go just for that performance aspect.
Totally.
You know? And so like, you need something to back that up. And that person might be a great performer and just is not great in the studio yet. Or maybe they don't care if they are.
I think that you hit the nail on the head, is that it's actually not, the songs aren't actually the ones that actually sell the tickets in a lot of sense. And like, it's, how does their social media look? What do they look like? Like
100%.
Who do they relate to? Who are they, like, what culture are they part of, if you know what I mean? Like, who are they
what's their demographic?
Who are they representing? And it's like, yes, the record, you need to write records in this industry. You're in the music industry. You need to release records. But like, some of the biggest artists in the world don't, and still sell thousands and thousands and thousands of tickets every weekend, male and female. And,
totally.
And I think the thing that I struggle with is why I don't actually think it's that many people give a fuck. I think it's actually just, it's like the internet. It's just
the vocal bit.
It's just the vocal fuckers that just like,
yeah.
Like, I'm pretty good friends with Vanessa, although we talk so much shit online to each other. Everyone thinks we hate each other. But like, I'm pretty good friends with her, and she sends me like messages of like what people send her. And I'm like, I would never in a million years even want to say that to somebody that I knew, let alone didn't know. Like, I wouldn't even say it to Vanessa, and I say some awful shit to her. Like, and like, so I there's a producer called Clarity, who girl called Claire from Dallas. She's a wicked producer, and like still really new in the scene. She'd remixed one of my singles, and like some of the stuff people say to her, and I'm like, how can you be so fucking evil to like?
Yeah,
you don't even know this girl, like. It just amazes me how people can be like that, and I don't understand it. I do understand it. I understand why people. I think people, especially men, don't like to be inferior to women, or they don't want to see a woman be more talented than them and achieve more than them in life.
Yeah, it's coming from a really bitter place.
Really, yeah, and it's dark. It's actually a really dark thing, like putting people down on the internet to make yourself feel better. It's just not. It's not a vibe. But it's weird.
It's not.
It hasn't happened to me that often.
I was gonna say it doesn't happen to me very often either.
That's good. I'm happy.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate for that, and I have no idea why.
I have an idea why. Because you're just being authentically you.
Maybe that's it. But also, again, I am dance music's best kept secret. So maybe once I'm no longer a secret,
when you're famous, give it a couple years and give it some more albums.
Then the haters will come rushing in. I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully not. Well, fuck it. If you've got a bunch of haters, it means you're doing well.
Right. So I'm just not there yet. But I don't know. Like, obviously it's an issue with women. I can't say that I've had it really bad, but again, I am really conscious of the way I'm perceived.
Yeah.
And I make huge effort. It's something I'm really thoughtful about with how I present myself online.
Yeah.
And the way that I try to be open about my process.
Yeah.
So that people can't make those assumptions about me.
Yeah.
Because more than anything, and I felt this way when I worked in film.
Yeah.
I feel this way in music. Like, it's about me expressing myself and making my art. But I think what I find part of success in my eyes is getting respect and recognition from people you respect and admire.
100%.
And so I am just hyper aware of that. Sometimes it can feel unhealthy.
Yeah, I can
honestly
see that. Yeah. Well, carry on.
No, go ahead.
I think it can become very like what's the word? It homes you. For me, when I think about what does everyone else think about it, like artist wise, it's like, fuck, should I post that? Should I release this record? Should I do this? Should I do that? And it used to really like limit me massively.
Yeah.
But I think for me, then I just kind of take the ego out of it and go, these people don't give a fuck about me. And I don't really give a fuck about them.
Exactly.
So why the fuck am I even like thinking about it? Because it's actually, from it to a certain extent, it's an excuse not to do it. It's an excuse to like, oh, I didn't put that out because it wasn't going to fit this sound and nobody would have liked it. It's just an excuse for me to like actually not fail and use everybody else's excuses to fail or use everybody else as the excuse to fail.
It can be self-sabotage, really.
100%.
You have to just put yourself out there. If you believe in what you're making, you can't let those thoughts hold you back. I think the only time you should really let those kinds of thoughts infiltrate your decision making is when you were pushed to do something for a reason outside of like just wanting to do it.
In what sense? Give me an example.
So if you feel like you needed to take on a certain look, whether it's like a gig or working with a certain label or something, if you felt you needed to do that to succeed and it wasn't necessarily something that you would have gone out of your way to do on your own, like it wasn't, if it feels a little bit inauthentic to you as an artist, but you know it's going to get you where you need to be or where you want to be, that's the only time where I think it makes sense to maybe like step back and be like,
Yeah. I guess, and to counter that, is there a time in your career where you have to step out of the comfort zone that feels authentic to you to
100%
to push yourself in whatever way needs to go? And not talking about business, but like I'm in that situation massively now, like with my career, is that like I've got to a certain level, and this is kind of the first time I'm really talking about it, but like I've got to a certain level and I can sustain where I'm at by just doing what I'm doing. But if I ask myself in 5 years' time or even 2 years' time, do I want to still be doing what I'm doing, just sustaining here? Like, I don't write hits, if you know what I mean. I'm not Chris Lake, if you know what I mean. I'm not those cats that they can just bosh out a hit in the studio and like it does really well every time they release it. So it's like, what do I have to do that doesn't feel necessarily authentic? Because authenticity to me is like also what everyone else perceives me as. So it's like, what is everyone else used to me doing? It's like, okay, they used to just me putting out bangers like for the last 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
But what do I need to do to then change everyone else's perception of me and grow what I've got into something that I know in 10 years' time, I'm going to be like, that was the best decision of my life.
100%. This last year is that for me.
Yeah. What was it? What was the process? What was the realization that you had to do that? Like, where were you at in your career where you're like, I have to make a step? It doesn't feel comfortable, but I have to make a step.
I had an agent, and then I was approached by UTA. Marissa and Adam.
Yeah.
Agoshwitz. And I was really hesitant to go with UTA. They know that. We had lunch and I explained that to them.
Yeah.
Because I was so scared.
Yeah.
That it would change people's perception of me. I wanted to be the cool underground producer.
Yeah.
And I knew that I would end up on these bigger festivals with more sort of EDM acts, and the associations would change.
Yeah.
And people might think I'm doing one thing when really I'm doing something else.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be the smallest artist on a huge roster and have the agents think of me at the end of the day, if that.
Yeah.
Like, I was really nervous that it would be the wrong choice, like the wrong decision.
Yeah.
But I had to kind of like, it was one of those things where I was like, I think there will be some growing pains.
Yeah.
And I might need to do some like strategic kind of things to make sure the perception stays how I want it to.
Yeah.
But I know that UTA is going to help me get to a sustainable place faster.
Yeah.
And literally I was right in that assumption.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been able to do this full time because of my agents and certain gigs that I've been able to get.
Yeah.
And sometimes the gigs, I'm like, I don't know if this makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But I know that I need to grow my audience.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, if they're at the gig, if they're at my set, they'll figure out what actually is going on with me.
Yeah.
And they can decide to be a fan or not.
Yeah.
It's just like getting me in front of more people, basically.
I agree. There's like a level, especially nowadays, where it's like you just have to get people there. You just have to get people to hear you. And I go in with that attitude with a lot of shows, even if like you're playing in your hometown or whatever it is. Like, it's like I'm going in to this show expecting that nobody knows who I am.
Yeah.
Or like 5% of people know who I am because everybody else has just brought their mates and dragged them along. Like, and now I have to win them over. And that's the only way you get fans, really. Like, I don't know if you gain fans from the Spotify algorithm or the Apple algorithm, because I think it's just
not a lot.
No, I don't think people listen to music like they used to in that sense. Whereas like you'd buy a CD and just listen to the CD for fucking months upon months.
Yeah,
it's very different. But yeah, how do you feel about from where you're at then to now? What's your feelings on that?
I mean, I was just talking to a friend of mine about this the other day. I just released a new single for an EP that's coming out next month. And I was kind of, and I'm sure you relate to this, it was like the come down of like the rush of a release.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, people like the song. This is so exciting. It's got some good like playlisting, and people like producers I really admire are like hitting me up that they like it. This is so cool. And then I'm like, okay, well, what's next? Like, okay, like,
yeah.
So what's next? Like, I need something else now. And I was talking to my friend about it, and he was like, just think about like where you were even a year ago.
Yeah.
You're fine. Relax. Like,
it's like a really unhealthy balance that I say you, like, I mean, like, I can relate to, and I think most of our peers can relate to. And I was literally talking to one of my best mates about it last night on the phone for ages. And it's like, yes, your friend has a very fair point. Like, we're chill. Like, my mum even said, my mum has never said it to me, but like, I was talking to her when around Christmas time, and she was like, Will, just like look back at like where you were like 10 years ago and like where you wanted to be, and look where you're at now. Would you ever have thought you'd be earning that much money for a show? Like, no. Yeah. But in argue to that, we can't look back. No. Because everybody else is looking forward. And everybody else is trying to take your spot in the lineup. I'm a huge believer, and it's taken me a long time to get to this in my career, that there's space for everybody in this industry. And I want everybody to be successful. Like, that's purely my thing. Maybe there's some people that I feel like shouldn't be because they're shitbags, but that's just life. But I want everyone to be successful. But like, we also have to look forward. We have to be selfish. Like I have to eat so everybody else can eat. And that's the way I look at it, is like, I'm not looking at this just as me. I'm looking at this as a team. And it's like, yes, my agents have way bigger artists than me, but I want to be the biggest artist on their roster. And so it's like, and I want to be able to buy them a house. I want to be able to like get them to a point where they can do that. I want my manager to have a life so that his family can have an amazing life. Like, that's the driving thing for me as well. It's like, the reason why the next is because there's other people relying on me.
100%. Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that keeps it driving and kind of takes the selfishness out of it. It's like, well, I'm also doing it for other people. But maybe that's just an excuse.
I mean, I think it's a huge part of it. Yeah. Especially, it's like when you get to a certain point where you do have a team and it's growing, it does really shift your priorities a little bit. Especially for me, like, if I didn't have, my manager, I have a tour manager now, my agents, like, I just release when I want to release. Just like, they're pushing me to make this a sustainable thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because how I was in school, like, I was a total just like kiss ass. Like I would
not expect
doing
that
a good job. Okay. Oh, I was such a kiss ass. I love doing a good job.
I love that.
I love impressing people.
Yeah.
I love hitting a deadline and like just giving it my all and people being like, you did good. I love that feeling.
Yeah, it's a great feeling.
And so, you know, I feel like with my team now, I have people to impress.
Yeah.
And it kind of keeps me thinking about momentum in a way that I wouldn't if I was just doing it completely on my own.
Are your team honest with you?
I know my manager is.
Yeah.
I know my tour manager is.
Cool.
Like my management team, they'll be like, this sucks.
Yeah, that's good.
Or they'll be like, don't do that. Yeah. And I don't necessarily listen every time.
Yeah.
But it's nice to know, like, if I need an honest opinion, I can get it. And honestly, even my closest friends are usually people that will be like, shh.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I like having people who, I know it's like cliche, like people who challenge me, but I really like, my best friends are the kind of people that can tell me to chill out and like, that. Shut up.
Yeah. You need that. Like, it's so important. It's so important to have a handful of people that would just like, I think it's like, for me, a lot of my closest friends, I've got like a couple of very close friends in music, but also most of my close friends are outside of music and realistically like don't give a fuck, which is great.
Exactly.
Because it's like I can go have dinner with them and I don't want to talk about music.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to talk about anything about my career. Like because we spend so much time thinking about it and talking about it. Like we've just spent nearly an hour and a half talking about it. And it's like, and now you're going to go in and probably make some music and then think about it more and then talk to your managers. And I've got a label meeting in a bit and another 4 podcasts. So it's like, it's a 24/7 job. So I think being able to escape from that is really nice, which I also sometimes really envy people that work like a 9-to-5 job that can switch off.
I mean, that was like a few years of my life working in film. I had my day job and then I would work on music on the weekends or at night. I'd throw parties, I'd DJ. And it was really nice to have that like financial freedom to do that. But it's also, but the grass is always greener because then I'd be sitting at my desk for 10 hours a day and I'd be like, man, I could be producing music right now.
100%. 100%. I say this all the time. I say this all the time to my mates. Like, we don't have to fucking work. Like, I treat it like work for me. Like, I do probably work more than what I would work in an office. But like, if I want a day off, I just not go into the studio. It's fine.
Exactly.
Like we're lucky that we can do that, and we have the best job in the world. It's amazing.
It's true. It is. It's really nice.
Yeah, it is amazing. Meagan, let's wrap this up. I want to talk to you more in future. I want to go into more depths of actual album writing and processes of album. But I think if we went into that now, people are just going to be like, oh my God, this podcast is going to go on forever. So are you doing another album? Is that the plan?
I am working on a 3rd album. Yeah.
Amazing. So when 3rd album's out, can you come and talk about it?
I would love to. I think this year is going to be a lot of singles and EPs.
Yeah. Wicked.
And then the 3rd album will be on the back burner.
Amazing. Well, let's do it for next year. But keep in touch. Thank you so much for coming on. How can people follow you?
I mean, just look up Quarter, QRTR, and then follow on your platform of choice. Do
it. Thanks so much, mate. Keep safe, and hopefully
Thank you so much.
No, it's been really nice. I've really enjoyed it. Keep it up, and I will see you very soon.
Sounds good. Thank you for having
Peace. Me. And that is a wrap. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for Quarter for coming on. Thank you again for everybody. 150 episodes is a wild milestone for this podcast. So thank you so much. Keep safe. See you next time.